overall impressions of Auburn. I mean, I think they're going to be a good team. They are a good team.
The Auburn game.
I thought it was a, for an exhibition game, that's probably as intense and as good an exhibition game as I've been a part of in a long, long time. It's exactly what we wanted. It's exactly what we needed. So it was fantastic. The people that put on the event were great. They treated those kids the right way. They had an awesome venue, and they had 99% Auburn fans. So it was good for us to be able to persevere in a really hostile environment with a brand new group of guys. So I thought it was fantastic.
Are there things you can't learn about your team in practice that exhibition did show you?
Well, yeah. I mean, number one, when you go into a situation like that and you're short bodies, I mean, you don't know how guys are going to how guys are going to be when they have to play extended minutes. I mean, we had several people who had to play 32 to 36, 8 minutes, somewhere in there. And, normally if you've watched our rotations or our teams, we don't have guys playing 38 minutes. So, yeah, no, it was, I would say that for the first exhibition game of the year, those guys performed at a high level. And, I think that hopefully gives us a glimpse as to what maybe can come down the road.
Is it nice to get a chance and this early in the year to go through in-the-game situations, foul trouble, everything?
Well, the problem is and you guys are going to think I'm an idiot, but normally we don't have anything in on scrimmage number one. Like when I go to exhibition number one as a head coach, I've always said I want to be able to play good man-to-man defense. I want to be able to play in transition, and I want to be able to play motion offense. Now, because we were playing Auburn, I knew that we would have to have some set plays in, but we have nothing in late game. So the stuff that, the assistants kept telling me to call timeout, and I kept saying to myself, like, I can't call timeout because we're going to need every timeout down the stretch in order to call some plays because we don't have anything in. None of our late game packages are in. So, yeah, it was interesting. Now, the foul trouble and those sorts of things, I think that leads to the bigger question of why we're in foul trouble, and that's because our defense is not very good, and we've got a lot of growth there. But it's kind of the same attitude we've always had as next man up, and I thought that those guys did a good job just kind of going from the next person to the next person and being able to give us quality minutes.
The reason you don't normally have stuff in for the first exhibition, is that because you'd rather spend time elsewhere, or because you want to see what the guys are like when you don't have that stuff in already?
So my theory is that it's kind of like walking and running, right? You've got to be able to walk before you can run. And if you, in this league or in any league, if you can't play good man-to-man defense and you can't play motion offense, it doesn't matter how many good, tricky set plays you have, because there's going to be nights where you have to be able to fall back on your fundamentals and your base, and that's our fundamentals and our base. So if we're not good at that, then it's going to be a long year.
Speaking of running, Lefty and Daniel both said that first practice here was the hardest practice either of them had ever been in because of the running. Do you often run practices? Is that just a Steve Lutz practice?
Yeah, that's just normal. Yeah, and when you have people coming from different areas of the world, everybody does it differently. But you don't get to. I think last year we finished number 12 in the country in tempo. You don't get that way if you don't play at a high level in terms of speed and quickness and pushing the basketball. So they're just having to adjust. They've adjusted fine.
With some of the international guys, they're coming from professional, clubs. How do you coach them at all differently versus guys coming from high school or?
Not really. I mean, I coach them all pretty much the same. I think that the easiest way to say it, and I've said this several times last year, it's kind of like raising your own children. I mean, maybe one of your children needs constant supervision and reassurance, whereas the other one you can just kind of let them go and they're going to get it done. Those that need less reassurance and guidance, they get more leeway, and those that don't, You know, you have to coach them harder and you have to help them more.
I guess, do you see a sense of professionalism on their part because they have played pro basketball?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think those two guys are fantastic. I mean, you know that they're going to come into the gym every single day. They're going to get their work in, and not that this team has as many highs and lows as last year's team, but those two in particular, they're very even. There's not a lot of peaks and valleys with them. They're very, very good at doing their job every day.
When we got a chance to talk to them, they both mentioned Keaton. Just can you talk a little bit about his international recruiting and how he gets these relationships with these players?
Yeah, and I don't know if we've ever talked about this before. I'm trying to think. Either way, Keaton, when I walked into the job, really kind of his niche was Oklahoma, maybe a little bit of Arkansas, maybe a little bit of Kansas City, you know, that. So he didn't have a wide reach recruiting wise. And so I said to him, I said, hey, you're going to need to expand your network. And so we thought, or I felt like we had a hole there in the international recruiting. And I said, hey, the only way you can do this is to just jump in with both feet, figure it out. And obviously I've recruited overseas quite a bit for a long time. And so I give him my contacts and he follows up, and you give him your contacts, and eventually he builds his network. And so he's done a good job. You know, just it's no different than recruiting a young man from Dallas or from Oklahoma City or from Tulsa. You just, it's constant, it's persistence, it's follow up, and it's building a relationship.
A lot of the transfers you brought in had played at a high major somewhere for the most part. Jalen Curry had only been at UMass. What did you see from him in the evaluation process that you thought he could definitely translate here?
Well, I mean, I would think that those of you who've covered basketball here last year know that I like quick and fast and aggressive guards. And I certainly saw that with him at UMass. His role was so much different his first year versus his second year. So his first year he might not have been the number one guard per se. You know, there was a young man that was ahead of him that was kind of the lead dog. And then now he stepped in his second year, he kind of stepped in that role and he shot a lot more. And with this team, you know, he scored 23 points, but with this team, I tell him all the time, I said, I need you to run the team and take care of the basketball, which he did a great job, 4 assists, 1 turnover. Now, with that being said, I'd love to have 8 assists and 1 turnover. I don't think we're going to need him to score 23 every night, but it's great to have a young man who understands that and can go get you a basket when he needs to. So.
You mentioned being shorthanded. Is any of that long term with those guys?
No, I think those guys will be back. They're all working their way back. Yeah, Ben's going to be out a little bit longer because of the surgery, but those other guys, I mean, they're coming back slowly but surely.
Curry mentioned when y'all recruited him, one of the things he was excited about is y'all moving him back to a spot he's used to, comfortable with. Did you know early on when recruiting him that you wanted him to play a different role for y'all than UMass had?
Absolutely, yeah. We were trusted in the recruiting process. The worst thing I can do is have Jalen Curry come here and think that I'm going to let him shoot the ball 20 times a game. Because at UMass, they needed him to shoot the ball 20 times a game. And I was very open and upfront with it. Not going to tell you not to shoot, but take good shots and run the basketball team and do what a great point guard does. And I thought for the most part, he did that against Auburn the other night. He picked his moments where he needed to be aggressive, but he wasn't by any means selfish. You know, I thought that he moved the ball when it needed to be moved, short of a few times, but that's normal for this time of year.
Where is Ryan Crotty should be early in the season, early in the preseason?
Yeah, I mean, I've said it over and over. Ryan works the hardest. You know, every week. This week, I believe somebody beat him. Curry might have beat him in the 300 club. But Ryan, let's just say that there's 30 weeks. Ryan's been the #1 shot taker and maker for 27, 28 weeks. And I believe in rewarding people that work really, really hard. With that being said, I'm not doing it just because he works hard. He's a good player, and he can really shoot the basketball. You know, his growth's going to have to come on the other end. You know, he just gets in positions where, you know, you're faced against tougher, more athletic people. And I shouldn't even say tougher. You're just faced with quicker and more athletic people, and you've got to figure out ways to keep them in front of you, you know, without fouling.
How big of a luxury can it be for a coach whenever something does break down and you've got a guy like Anthony Roy, you can just step back and shoot?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic luxury and something we didn't have obviously last year. So I'm excited about what Anthony did against Auburn the other night. And again, I think he's got a long ways on the other side of the ball for growth, and if he can do both of those things, I mean, because he rebounded it, he shot it. The downside of against Auburn is he had some careless turnovers. He had 6 turnovers, but if he becomes a two-way player, I mean, I think Anthony Roy's going to have a chance to be a professional for a long time.
Is it easier to teach a guy who excels in offense defense or a guy who excels in defense offense?
Say that again?
Is it easier to teach a guy who excels on the offensive end? Is it easier to teach that guy defense, or is it easier to teach a guy that excels on the defensive end? Is it easier to teach that guy offense?
I don't know that it's easier one way or another. I think typically what you'll find is guys that excel on offense a lot of times don't have the same attention to detail on the other end. Whereas the guys on the defensive end, they're usually good defenders because they lack something offensively, if that makes sense.
It was my high school basketball career.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. So yeah, I don't know that one's easier than the other, but certainly it's a different fight, so to speak. The mindset is different.
Was there anything about when you went back and watched the tape, or even in the moment, that surprised you about this team when y'all faced Auburn?
They ain't scared. At the end of the day, when you go to an environment like that, and today was practice number 18, so we probably at that point had 13 or 14 real practices, and we haven't really had a tremendous amount of what I consider real practices because we've been so short on bodies. You find out, when you get into pressure situations, you're either going to fight or you're going to wilt, and we fought, and so that's obviously something that's great to see.
The sample size is just one exhibition game, but what do you think about rebounding, and can that be a sign of things to come?
Well, I'm glad that you noted that the sample size is very small. like I told these guys, I mean, and I'm happy for them. Like I'm always happy when they win and do good things, and people recognize them for doing good things. But we didn't win the world title here, right? We didn't win the NCAA tournament. So it's one game. We performed well on the road. Let's take it for what it is. But you also have to look yourself in the mirror and say to yourself, hey, we shot the ball fairly well. As you said, we did out-rebound them, but we also got killed in terms of turnovers. We also allowed them to shoot whatever it was, 18 more free throws than us, make 14 more free throws than us. That's not a recipe for winning. If you guys wanted to watch the game on TV and just looked at the just looked at the entire stat book, you'd have been like, how the heck did they win that game, right? So we've got a long ways to go on the other side of the ball, especially. And I think we'll get better offensively too. I really do.
Have you ever coached a guy who shot his free throw off center?
I have not.
What's that like?
You know what? I asked him about it one day, and he said that he's done it for a long time, and that's his niche. And I said, well, if you make them, I won't say anything to you, and if you miss, then we're gonna have a conversation about how you should shoot free throws.
Have you ever coached a married player before?
I don't know. That's a good question. I'm pretty sure I have. Let me think through this. I don't know if I've coached a married player while they still had eligibility, but I know that I had a young man finish his senior year and got married that summer. So I'd have to really think more into that one. But
does it help with the maturity level, I guess, when you do have someone that's kind of...
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think both those guys were very mature from the beginning, and both of them obviously are great humans, and they married well. So I think that just as in my marriage, right? I'm sure that it's good for them when they go home and they complain about coach and this, that, and the other. That the other half is going, well, it's probably not quite as bad as you're saying it's going to be. I'm sure it'll be fine. So my wife talks me off the ledge sometimes as well. So, I mean, I'm sure it's good for them. But, it's interesting. You'll have to ask Parsa. Have we had Parsa up here yet?
Not yet.
Okay, when you have Parsa up here, ask him about his 2-hour rule. So his 2-hour rule is that no matter what happens after the game, for 2 hours, you can think about it. So if I played great, I can celebrate for 2 hours. But if I played crappy, after 2 hours, it's all over, we start new, which I think is very big of him and very mature of him to do that. He said that in our huddle the other day, and I thought, that's pretty good. So again, I think that Parson, Kirk, both those guys are very mature from the beginning too.
Coach, or Chad Weiberg has a very important hire with football. I want to ask you, when you were hired here, how secretive was he in terms of talking to you? And how does he handle his business from his perspective when you were getting hired here? Because you were a high-profile hire as well.
I disagree on the high profile hire, but okay. Well, Chad, and I don't know what he's told you guys, but from my experience in being involved in several head coaching searches along the way, is he's got a built-in degree of anonymity just because he has a search firm. And I know that they've already hired one, and I know that the search firm allows a degree of separation. But throughout our process, I talked to him several times. They flew me in. We met in an undisclosed location in which it was he and I and Reed, the search firm, and there was one more person in there now that I think about it, who was affiliated with Oklahoma State. And we met for several hours, and then I got back on the plane and I went back to Kentucky. And then from then it was all phone stuff, but they were very transparent. I was happy with the way everything was handled, probably till the very end, when it got a little screwy that last weekend. But Chad was very transparent that, hey, we brought you in. We're going to go see this guy on Tuesday. We're going to see this guy on Wednesday, and maybe we'll see another one on Friday. And after Friday's over, we'll make a decision. So I like people that are transparent and forward and honest, and he was very good about that.
Do you guys on the coaches side have much interaction with the search firm itself? Because I think it's the same
Sure.
search firm.
Yeah, it's the same search firm. Yeah, I mean, I've known those guys at that search firm for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Does it sort of feel like, and this sounds weird because the season hasn't even started yet, but with what you guys are doing on the recruiting trail, which you can't talk about, with the exhibition, does it sort of feel like you guys are sort of building a little bit of momentum with the fan base right now?
I'll say this. I thought after the Auburn game, I thought that and I'm not one to go onto social media. I've told you all that before, because winning and being a coach is very fleeting, right? I mean, as quick as people are to praise us for beating Auburn, if SMU were to beat the heck of us, they'd be wanting to fire me again. Instead of nuts for Lutz, it would be whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. But no, I thought that this weekend, especially like at the football game, as I walked around campus, or even Friday night through the walk around, some friends and I, we kind of took the golf cart around so that we could get to see more places. I thought people were more engaged with basketball. Last year, I don't know, how many people stopped me, but I felt like it was a lot more this year, and engaged and said great job or took a picture or something along those lines. And I know that the guys, and Rob Jennings and Kirk and Millie are the only three that can compare to last year, but they said that the fan support is much better thus far at this point. So yeah, it's good, right? We want good things. We want good things for football. We want good things for basketball and women's basketball and wrestling. But I mean, we could have a great winter. You've got three teams, I think, that are all going to be very competitive on a high level.
I asked Keaton this question, and I want to ask you, I know you can't talk about specific players, but how do you celebrate a big-time recruit when you get a commitment? What's your process like celebrating that? Yeah,
I mean, we celebrate a little bit as a staff, but shoot, I've been doing this 30 years. Recruiting it's a lot of peaks and valleys as well. So you can't get too high and you can't get too low. I mean, I've had a lot more no's than I've had yeses, guys. So when you get a yes, and we've got two good yeses thus far. I really like both those guys, but we still got we got more to come. So you celebrate it, but you have to keep working. I mean, recruiting's like Roy Williams said it years ago, I believe, or it might have been Dean Smith. Recruiting's like shaving. Like, you have to do it every day. If you don't do it every day, people are gonna start to notice. And obviously I say that as I didn't shave. But no, I think we're trending in the right direction. And with all that being said, I've always been very open and honest with you guys. We have worked really, really hard at trying to continue to build our outside resources to help be able to recruit some of the best players across the country. And unfortunately, it is what it is in this day and age. You've got to have the resources beyond revenue sharing. You just do.
I know we've been